Welcome to BES12 Cloud Part 2. In this video we're going to talk about some policies that you can push out to the phone, how you push out an email account, how to push out apps to the work side of Balance, and maybe how to remove it. We'll see. Before I do that though, I wanted to address something that I saw when I watched the video for Part 1. At the end of the video, I seemed to indicate that maybe when you registered the phone, enrolled the phone with BES, it took a copy of the existing personal side and kept it. And then when you unenrolled, it would put it back to that. That may have been what it sounded like, but that's not what I meant. That does not happen. So any changes you make on the personal side of your phone while you're enrolled in BES are kept even when you remove yourself from BES. So I wanted to clarify that. In the meantime, we'll go ahead and log in to the console on the Surface Pro, and I'll show you some things that you can do on the console to set up policies, to change policies, to send out an email address, to send out apps, and to control the phone a little bit. So let's get started. So let's start by signing into our tenant account. And then we will sign into the console with the admin account. So we're going to start by adding some apps. We'll come up here to the toolbar and we'll tap the apps. I hope this magnifier helps to clarify where I'm doing things. I noticed on the videos that that's a problem where you can't actually tell where I'm tapping and doing things on the screen. So I'm going to try and use this to highlight the areas I'm going into. So here we are where we're going to add an app, and we have this little toolbar over here on the right. The first one, pardon me, is to add an app. The second one is to create a group that you can put apps into, which you could then assign to users. The third one is refresh, and the last, of course, is delete. So we're going to start by adding an app. So we'll tap that. We now have the stores to choose from. In this case, we're going to use BlackBerry World. Then we're going to search for the app we want. Well, the work side of Balance on your phone does not have BBM. If you want BBM on the work side, which you probably would, then why not add it? So let's do BBM and we'll search. So there it is right there. We'll select the add option right here. And then of course we have a little window showing us about this app. Well, I don't know why we need that, but they give it to you anyway. And you can open it in BlackBerry World if you want to, with a tab with a link up here, right there. But we will go ahead and add that. Now conveniently they leave you to where you can search for more apps so that you can keep adding apps. Presumably you're doing this a bunch of apps at the same time as you're setting it up. So the next one we're going to add is a Citrix receiver. So we'll do Citrix and we'll search. And there it is. Again, add and add. We can get rid of the keyboard now. We're not going to need that now. So it's been successfully added. We're now done with this box. We're going to tap the little X up here. Get rid of it. We're done with the store. So again, tap the X. And now you see that these two apps have been added as options, as available to be added to a user. They have not been pushed to the phone at this point. You may see up here these columns: assigned to user 0, devices with app 0. So what we want to do is go back to the users and devices on the toolbar up above, right here. See it changing. And here's our user. So we're going to tap BBTeach to open it. And down here below the policies, we have the apps section, which is right here. And we have a little plus. So we're going to click that plus. Now, had we added a group, and put the apps in a group, we could assign the group to the user and they would get all those apps. In this case, we didn't do a group, so we're going to just select all by tapping the box above the list in the column headers. So we tap that and it checks all those, and we say next. Now it's giving us disposition with a pull-down box. Now it turns out, and they actually tell you that with this little line right here, apps that have been added from BlackBerry World are only optional. You cannot set those as mandatory. So you can pull down the list under optional, but that's the only choice you have. So anyway, let's go ahead and assign them. So they've now been assigned to the phone. So they will get pushed out to the phone when it next communicates with BES12. Here then is Pale Rider, the white Z30, which is being managed by BES. And I wanted to just show that the apps that we sent by BES are actually on the phone. So let's swipe down and switch to work, which is right here. So we're now on the work side. I realize the screen is very, very dark. It's a little bit, it's not even that bright out here, but the camera doesn't do that good a job. So anyway, let's switch over and we'll go up here to BlackBerry World Work. And you see then, there they are. BBM and Citrix receiver are now available to be installed on the phone. So those were pushed by BES. So you can see it actually does work, in case anyone doubted it. So let's then go on and do an email account, okay? We've sent some apps to the phone, so let's now try setting up an email account on the phone from the BES12 console. So we start, or rather I want to start by pointing out the power of variables in the BES12 console, because they are very powerful, big time savers, very, very convenient. So let's go then to the settings option up here on the toolbar right there. And let's come over here to the list of settings, and find default variables right there. And the variables we are really interested in are username if you want to, although that's not too important for what we're doing. But the one that we're really interested in is right here, user email address. So let's go then to the profiles, policies and profiles, if you see that going blue right there. And let's go over to the email right here. We're going to click the plus right there. So here we are, where the form where we can fill out the email information. This is an arbitrary name. We'll just call it Outlook.com. It's really just to describe what this does. Then description, which we can leave blank. Domain name. In the case of Outlook.com, you do not need a domain name, so we can leave that blank. So here's where we're going to use our first variable, the only variable we're going to use actually, and that would be user email address. Sorry. Okay. We're actually going to use that again. So let's go ahead and copy and paste it. Okay, host name or IP address. In the case of Outlook.com, to use it as an active sync account, which is what we need to do, we're going to use s.outlook.com. You'll probably notice that gets changed on the phone. That's whatever Microsoft decides it should be. So here we need the username, and because it's an Outlook.com account, where the username is the same as the email address. So we'll paste that in. going to be for BlackBerry, so we'll leave BlackBerry highlighted there. The account name is work. That's the name that the account has on your phone. If you want to change that, you can. Could maybe call it username at outlook.com, for example, but you don't really need to change it. I talked in previous videos about the fact that BlackBerry phones specifically only allow Exchange ActiveSync and IBM Notes Traveler accounts to be pushed from BES. So you can see that those are my options here. We're going to leave it on Exchange. Days to synchronize. This is just the number of days of email kept on the phone. In this case, we're going to change it to forever. We want all email from the server to be on the phone also. Really no emails on the server, so it doesn't matter in this case. Secure email settings, allow, we'll leave that alone. Before we get down that far though, I want to turn off, I'm not interested in task synchronization. Move this over so you can see. I'm going through this list right here. So I'm going to turn off calendar, I'm going to turn off contacts, we'll leave email, and I turned off task synchronization. We don't need memo either, so we'll turn that off. And is there anything else we want to do here? I don't think so. So let's go ahead and add this down here at the add button. Now that has been added over here in the email list, but you notice there are 0 users. Let me move that over. There are 0 users associated. So the policy, or rather in this case, the profile has been created, but it hasn't been assigned to any users. So let's then go to users and devices and BTeach. And let's look then at the IT policies and profiles right here. And we'll go over to the plus, and we're going to add a policy. There it goes. Now it's pulled down a list of the available policies and profiles. In this case, it's a profile, and we're going to tap email. So it's now giving us an option to select from this list, and Outlook.com is one we just created, and we're going to do that. We're going to assign it. And it's actually going to get sent to the phone at this point almost immediately. We've sent the email address, the email account rather, to this phone by BES12. So let's see if we can catch it actually setting up the account. It's going to prompt us for the password when it gets the account. We're waiting to see if BES12 Cloud will send the instruction to set up the account. Should do it quite quickly. And there it goes. So of course we just put the password in and we'll have the account. So let me do that now. I'll pause the video while I do it. All right, I've entered the password. Let's go ahead and save. Okay. Get rid of that notification. We don't need it anymore. Now if we look in the hub, we see we have the work account right there. There's no email in this account, so it's not going to pull anything in, but if there were, it would start to filter in to here. Now, if we go to settings on the personal side, go to accounts, there it is. It does show it to you on the personal side. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I guess it doesn't matter too much. If we go to advanced, we can start to see the settings. And if you remember what we did over on the BES12 console, the one that I'm pointing out, if we can get it to show up enough, I know it's gray, so it's a little bit hard to see. But notice it says bbteach@outlook.com. If you remember under username, and email address, the same thing. We used a variable in the console where we used user email address. So it substituted that variable for the actual address when it sent it to the phone. And that again is the power of the variables. And all the other settings we did, if you look at this, the sync time frame right there, it's forever, which we set. Remember that? So there you go. That's setting up an email account on a phone from the BES12 console. Here we are back on the Surface Pro, looking at the BES12 console. And I want to talk about policies a little bit. So let's go to the Policies and Profiles option. You can see it blinking blue there. And I want to talk about IT policies specifically. Let's pull down the list. You can see we have the default, which is obviously the one that was set up on by BlackBerry initially. And we can modify that. I personally don't like modifying default profiles. I prefer to leave them alone, create my own. So what I think we'll do is we'll create a policy. Okay, we're waiting for it to open the form. There it goes. And the name, of course, again, it's just descriptive. We'll call it mine. Why not? This does apply to BlackBerries, so we'll leave that alone. The password we'll leave alone. This really is based off the default, or at least it looks like the same settings as the default profile. So I'll leave it to you to explore these and see what they do. But one of the things that I wanted to do was explore what happens when you turn off a feature of the phone. Does it turn it off on the work side only, or does it turn it off on both sides? And that's actually a really good question. Obviously, if you disallow cameras in your organization, it doesn't do you much good to disallow the camera on the work side, but leave it available on the personal side. So what happens if we turn off the camera? So let's disable allow camera. I don't know if you can see that. I know it's kind of hard to see because there's a lot there. So let me move this over. I'm going down the list here. And right there we have allow camera. So I unchecked it. That's the only change I want to make to this policy, just for testing purposes. So let's go down to the bottom here and add. As always, we've now created a policy, but we haven't assigned it to anyone. So it's out there, available to be assigned, but not currently assigned. So let's go over to the users and devices again. Go to BB Teach, as always. And what we're going to do is click the plus. Now this is strange because you can't have more than one IT policy. So what happens to the default IT policy when we put the mine policy in? Well, let's see. So we click the plus, and you can see we get the list again. So we'll select IT policy, pull down the list, and we now see mine is on there. Let's assign it. So what it has done is replaced the default policy with the mine policy. Okay. You also see we have a remove option here for the mine policy, which we don't have for the default. If we remove that, it just switches it back to default. I don't know if you can see or notice that there's no camera icon there where it normally would be. This is on the personal side. We switch to the work side, again, no camera icon, it's gone. Well, it turns out it wasn't as straightforward as I thought it would be, because turning off the camera and certain other options only works if you're in an activation, in a specific type of activation mode. There's actually 3 activation modes. One is work, personal, corporate, which is the default. The second is work only, and the third is work personal regulated. So work only and work personal regulated can disable the camera. Work personal corporate does not. So in order for me to get the camera to go away, even though we changed the policy to turn it off, in order to actually make it go away, I had to deactivate the phone, change the, or create rather an activation policy that was for work personal regulated, and then reactivate the phone. So that the camera, disabling the camera policy would take effect, and you can see it did. There's no camera icon. As far as I can tell, there's no way to actually use the camera. Sometimes you can do things through various options that are not specific, but I couldn't find any way to actually get the camera to turn on. So looks like it worked, but only after I reactivated the phone in a mode that permitted it. Now, that's the answer. I want to show you how to unenroll a phone from BES12. In case you want to remove someone's phone so that the work information has been taken off of it. So right now we're looking at user summary for BBTeach again. I've actually already removed the email address. I've removed the apps that were sent, and I changed the policies back to defaults for IT policy. So you don't really need to do that, but I wanted to. I'm going to now switch over to the Z30 tab here, but before I do that, it will expose some information about the phone that I like to keep private. So what I'm going to do is slide the web page over a bit to here, just so that it doesn't show on the video. So there we go. We can let's leave it about there. So now we're looking at the options to manage the device here. These different choices. There are, if you need a detailed device report, you can use that one. I'm not going to do that because that then would expose all the information I'm trying to hide. It's just the serial number and other information PIN. View device actions is actually pretty useful. If you've sent a command to the phone, a policy update, a new profile, a set of apps, whatever the case may be, and you want to know what the status is, you can use this, and it will show you what the last thing that happened was. In this case, I sent policy and profile changes, and it has completed on the phone. So that was the last one I sent, was to remove the account, the apps, and change the policy. So that has been completed. As far as I can tell, it's not an active page, so you need to refresh it occasionally if you want to see status changes. The one we're interested in right now is we want to unenroll the phone. So we could delete only work data is the option to do that, and we'll do that in a moment. Before I do that, though, I wanted to point out specify device password lock and set message. Presumably, if the phone is lost, stolen, and the user wants the phone to be locked in hopes that maybe they'll find it, for example, then you could use that to lock it, change the password, and put a message on it. And if it were found again, the user would come to you and say, okay, what's the password? And they'd be able to get in. You'd straighten that out. Here is the equivalent to security wipe. In fact, that's what it does on the phone. It does a security wipe. So that deletes everything on the phone. User, personal information, work information, everything. Be careful with that one. Make sure you know that's what you want to do. Workspace password, if you wanted to change the workspace password without affecting the personal side of the phone, you could do that. But in this case, we're going to delete only work data. So let's select that. So it's not really giving you any more information about what it's doing. I kind of wish it would, but maybe explain that better. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and delete only work data. So we've got these explanations up here about what these things do. You don't really need to do anything. The command has already been sent to the phone. The phone is in the process probably at this time of removing the work side of balance, and you'll just go back to the personal side as though you never added it to BES. So there really isn't much else to do except let that happen. So that's some things you can do with management of the phone. Here we are back over at the Z30 after we sent the command to remove work data. So we're on the phone as usual. This is the personal side. Now let's pull down settings, and you'll notice the option down at the bottom to switch to work is not there. Let me go back to this page. It's been removed. It's not there anymore. We go to hub. Yeah, I think that's a little bug. I've noticed that before. There's no work account anymore. It's been gone. It's been removed. So that's it. It's back to a personal phone only. The all remnants of BES12 cloud activity have been pretty well removed. This concludes the series on BES12 cloud. This is in part 1. You recall I showed you how to set up a store, an enterprise store account, how to purchase the 30-day evaluation of BES12 cloud, how to set up a tenant account, how to set up the admin account, how to access the console, how to activate a phone, and how to switch back and forth between personal and work side of balance on a BB10 phone. In this part 2, I showed you how to add some apps to the BlackBerry World Work, how to send an email account to the phone, how to set up policies, modify policies, and how to deactivate the phone from BES12. So that's really the basis of what you need to get going. So I'm going to wrap it up here. I do hope that you will try it. It's could be very, very useful for you. If you do want to buy a BES12, you don't, after the 30-day evaluation expires, for a single phone on the website, it says that you can get a silver license for $23 US annually. So that's not very expensive, and the silver will give you pretty much everything you need to use BES in balance on your phone. You could certainly go in over the 30-day evaluation. I'd recommend you do, see what it's capable of, try to figure out what it may be, how it may be of value to you in your work and your personal life. And I do hope that you enjoyed the series. So if you did, feel free to send me some comments. And if you have more questions, I do have a few more days left on the evaluation. Maybe I could try some things and let you know. So enjoy. Thank you very much.